ESPN NBA analyst, former NBA player, JJ Redick, joining us on behalf of DraftKings. Appreciate you spending some time with us there, JJ. Let me ask you the poll question here. I'd rather have my team get swept in a series or lose in dramatic fashion in Game 7.
That's interesting. Lose in 7, of course.
Have you had both?
I don't. Yeah, I was swept when I played against the Heatles when I was with Milwaukee briefly, and I'd much rather lose in 7.
Well, if you're LeBron and the Lakers, you could have won maybe 2 or 3 of those games, but you still got swept. It didn't feel like a sweep. Does that feel like, hey, we had a great season if you're the Lakers?
Given where they started and given the amount of time post-trade deadline, look, I would be very encouraged if I was the Lakers. There's a way to create some cap space. They've got to bring back Austin Reeves. I thought his development this year into a legit half-court shot creator, you could run offense through him. I thought that was a huge development. And, LeBron, I'm assuming he's going to have some sort of surgery and rehab from that, so maybe he's not fully 100% when the season starts. But there's enough to build on this based on this season and this postseason run. But yeah, you're right. That series was. Look, you got to give Denver credit because they're the better team. They have the best player in the world. They closed out games. Ridiculous shot making down the stretch. Key stops in Game 4. You got to give them credit. But the Lakers aren't that far off.
We had Tim Legler on yesterday. He said it doesn't matter who's going to play the Nuggets. The Nuggets are going to win because there is nobody who's come up with a game plan to stop Joker. What do you think of that?
I think that's accurate. And it's interesting, the last 17 games of the season, they went 7-10. They sat some guys out. They had a couple multi-game losing streaks. And it didn't feel like they had that momentum, so to speak, going into the playoffs. And then within a couple games in the playoffs, you're kind of looking around and you're like, wait a minute, this team is really good. And by the end of the Phoenix series, it's pretty clear that they were playing better than anyone else in the playoffs. And it's not just Jokic, the game plan. I haven't seen a game plan to stop the Jokic-Murray two-man game, whether that's dribble handoffs or whether that's pick and rolls. They inverted the pick and rolls at the end of Game 3. They ran Murray as the screener and Jokic as the ball handler. They scored on every play. They present so many problems, and there's no good answer.
I said this to Legler. I thought that the MVP of that series against the Lakers was Jamal Murray. I knew what to expect out of Jokic. Murray, though, felt like he went back to the bubble and his version. Do we sort of take Joker for granted that he's going to give you a triple-double, but Jamal Murray can help you win a title?
Jokic was the MVP, but Murray, the greatest thing that Michael Malone said, I was calling one of their games earlier in the playoffs, and he referred to Jamal Murray as the other superhero, and I think that's accurate, where, look, you have star players. They need a Robin. A Batman needs a Robin. You also need some Alfreds. Occasionally, you might need a Catwoman. Sometimes you need Lucius Fox to step in. But Jamal Murray is a true Robin. He's a true number 2, reliable, can get you a bucket on his own, can play the two-man game with Jokic. And I keep going back to this. When you talk about duos in the NBA, the best duos always complement each other. And those two guys complement each other in spades.
Well, do Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum complement each other?
Absolutely not. I mean, I've said this. How much two-man action can you run with those guys?
Yeah. The
problem is those two guys are going to be guarded by the two best wing defenders. So anything you do with the two of them is just going to be a switch. Whereas with a Jokic-Murray pick and roll or a Draymond-Steph pick and roll, you've got a lot of possible answers, and none of them are really good.
We're talking to JJ Redick, the former NBA player and now analyst for the mothership, up for at least one coaching vacancy, it feels like. Where did this come from? wanting to maybe be a head coach?
Well, I mean, you certainly miss the competitive side of professional basketball when you retire, and that's probably the biggest itch. I'm loving what I'm doing right now, and I'm in a very fortunate situation that I can kind of wait and just see if there's anything that materializes that's sort of a perfect fit. But I've talked with teams now going on a year about assistant jobs, and I'm interested in being a head coach. I don't have to start as a head coach. I don't have to start as an assistant. It doesn't matter to me. It's more just about the fit and the people that are, at the organization.
The Ja Morant situation, JJ, this is the second go around. It feels like there's anger, but then there's also maybe there's something else here. How does the NBA approach it a second time around with Ja Morant?
Again, I'm not privy to the conversations between Adam and Ja and Ja's team, so I don't want to speculate on that. I would just say it's very clear that there needs to be structure in place, protocols in place, requirements in place. Whether that is talking to someone. I mean, I'm someone that's been very open about my own mental health and my own forays into therapy and performance coaching and all of that. And, I think we all need it. And it doesn't matter if you're 23, 33, 63. There's always some self-improvement you can get. And in Ja's case, I think having structure, having protocols, having a clear understanding of consequences, which it didn't sound like after Adam and Malika talked at the draft lottery, it didn't sound like there was necessarily sort of a clear thing. It was more just about dealing with the first incident and coming up with a punishment there. And I'm not condoning Ja. I've said this a million times. I'm not condoning the behavior. There deserves to be some punishment in place, and you have to recognize that he's potentially one of the faces of the new NBA once LeBron and Steph age out at some point, whenever that may be.
Yeah. Final 30 seconds. You're the GM of the Lakers, and the one move you need to make in the offseason is?
In some ways, first of all, Hachimura and Reeves need to come back. You need to figure out a way to bring them back. And if you can create enough cap space, I think upgrading at the point guard position is probably it. And I don't know that the solution is Kyrie Irving, because to get to probably his number, you've got to relinquish some depth. And as we found out in the playoffs, you're only as good as your weakest link. And that's where I think a team like the Denver Nuggets, when they went to this 8-man rotation, 7-man rotation at times in the conference finals, they don't have a weak link. They have interchangeable parts when they go to their bench. Bruce Brown has been awesome. So I don't know that you want to give up a ton of depth to go out and sign a max-level point guard, but that's the position to me where I think they can make some headway.
Safe travels. Great to talk to you again. Thanks for joining us. JJ Redick joining us on behalf of DraftKings.